Hey everyone, Mr. Silva here, and this is the recording for Module 2 HTML5 Coding, Lesson 2. So in the last class we talked about tags and the foundations for them. We also talked about an element, what the tags consist of. They have an element, an attribute, and a value in that order. Some will have all three. Some will usually only have one. Occasionally you might find it's with none, but they're usually always at least one. And there are container tags and there are empty tags. Container tags, remember, have a start and a stop. Empty tags just stand alone by themselves. Um, and so container tags, everything that's in between them will have that change. Container tags usually affect text, whereas empty tags usually just have more of an effect on the formatting. So today we're going to talk about the document structure tags. With these, we talked about how you begin your HTML coding. So the first one is the doc type, and that is the declaration. This is the first tag in your HTML document. It is very, very important that if you do want to code a website, you do have this tag as the first thing. This lets the interpreter, the computer that's going to read this document, know what version the document is written in. You know, we're on HTML5, so there's been at least 4 other editions of HTML before this one. So it's very important that when you do a web design that you include this declaration so that you can go ahead and code it properly. Remember, we're using HTML5 and you always want to use the latest version. The next is the HTML tag. This is a container for the entire document and it nests all code. So everything needs to be sandwiched between this tag. And then we have the head tag, and this allows you to write meta tags, links to style sheets, and it adds the title tag. We'll talk more about this. All right, so document structure tags. The meta tag, I talked a little bit about it on the last slide. The meta tag is information about the document. We call that the metadata. It is information about the website. It helps people find your website easier by using keywords, and it kind of helps explain what the website's about. You can also include like descriptions and revision dates as well in that. It's more about information and providing helpful resources to whoever's viewing your code. Next is the link tag. This references a style sheet and it's recommended. If you are going to use like a CSS file, it references a style sheet and it allows you to put an external sheet. The title tag, the document title, it's displayed in the browser's title bar, and it's in the head. The title tag is important too because if you don't put it, whenever you look at like Google Chrome and it has the top of the tab, it would just say untitled. So make sure you include that. And then you have your body tag. It begins the body of the document and it contains all of the content of the web page. Some things to remember: if your document doesn't code, it may validate correctly since HTML5 is flexible. HTML5 was designed more to be helpful to the user who's making the page than it is to actually be against you. The meta and link tags are empty tags. HTML head, title, and body tags are container tags, meaning that they have the start and the stop tags. So, does this look familiar? We have our doc type, we have our HTML, and then we have our head. Remember, your head contains all of the information like the meta tag, the link tag, and the title tag. The meta, as you notice, is a empty tag. This one has keywords, so it allows people to find keywords. Has the author and whoever wrote it, and it has the character set. The character set's kind of important because it allows the correct characters, like the A to Z and numbers and all of that, to be displayed correctly. We don't really talk about that too much, but you can include that if you feel necessary. Then we have a link to our style sheet, and you can include that if you choose to, but you know it's recommended to include a CSS file. Then you have your title, both the link and the title, or the link is a container, or is an empty tag rather. The title tag is a container tag, and this is all sandwiched between your head. And then next is your body. So, question of the day: are HTML tags case sensitive? HTML tags are not case sensitive, meaning that you can use them in all caps, lowercase, and a combination of both. However, It helps to do it in lowercase because it will be more compliant with HTML and XHTML. So it is recommended that when you do type your tags, that you do put them in all lowercase. Now for the document type declaration, the doc type. The document type declaration, it describes the markup language and version of your code. And it goes at the very top, and it's the first thing you code. You used to have to link the DTD, but you don't anymore. If you don't specify a doc type, you may not be able to control how it renders, and it may not be able to validate. Whenever the computer is processing your code, it looks for that first line. If it can't find it, it says, nope, this is not a website. So make sure you include that. Ours is very much simpler than what it used to be. HTML 2.0, it used to look like that. Won't go too much into detail about it. You did have to link it back then. 3.2, not much change. And 4.01. 4.01 is when we got a little bit more interesting. We had the transitional, the strict, and the frame set. Transitional was used for those that were transitioning from the older versions to the newer versions, so it was a little bit more flexible. However, strict was much more demanding and needed it to be correct. And so it's a little bit more intense. And then lastly, you have the frame set, which is if you were including frames in your pages. But we don't really use any of these anymore. We use HTML5. We also have XHTML 1.0. We have the transitional, the strict, and the frame set. Same thing there. And we talked a little bit about XHTML, but we'll talk a little bit more about it later. And then we have HTML5. So we want all of that jumbled mass of text to just smaller, and it works for us. Okay, make sure you include this, as you know. The HTML tag, comes after your document type declaration, and it can contain the manifest, and that's used for offline browsing. It can contain the language, and it configures the page to a specific language, and it can also contain what's called the XMLNS, and this is if your content needs to go into XHTML, but we don't really talk about that one. The head tag contains the meta tag, as you know. You can put the character set. This specifies the character set used in documents. We always use the meta char set UTF-8. You can put the name, keywords, descriptions, etc., and it allows your page to be more accessible. The HTTP equiv, this provides server information. We don't usually talk about that one too much. And then we have content, and this can be included. This can be supplying keywords, and it's more for search engines. Also in the head tag, we have the link tag. This is used for style sheet references, and it links to a CSS document. We also have the title tag, and that's specific content on the page. It's the name that appears at the top of the browser. And then you have the script tag, and this is used if you're using JavaScript, which we won't talk about because we don't really talk about it in this course. Then we have the body tag, and as you know, all of your content needs to go into the body tag. So, in this lesson, we did talk a lot about tags. I suggest you review it and review some of the tags that were covered. Tags are used to create and define elements and attributes in HTML. Make sure you review the tags because a lot of the ones that were covered in this lesson are very important. All right, that's going to do it for this lesson.